So you want to be a private investigator, and on paper, it looks like the ultimate pursuit of truth. You imagine trench coats, rain-slicked streets, and the quiet satisfaction of cracking a cold case that the police have long since abandoned. It is the allure of the lone wolf, the man or woman standing apart from the system to force open a locked door. But pull back the curtain, and you realize that the industry is not really about justice or mystery. You are not really buying into a cinematic lifestyle. You are buying into a high-stakes, high-boredom industry that operates on the thin margins of information arbitrage, where the truth is rarely hidden in a dark alley, but rather buried under thousands of lines of code and fragmented public records. Here is the first number that catches people off guard. The vast majority of investigative work today does not involve a single high-speed chase or a tense standoff. Instead, it is data entry. The modern private eye spends upwards of 80% of their billable time typing reports, logging timestamps, and verifying digital breadcrumbs. If you are looking for excitement, you are looking in the wrong place. The reality is that for every 10 hours of work, maybe 15 minutes involve anything resembling a confrontation. The rest is just processing the mundane, often tedious reality of human behavior in a digital age, documenting every single motion for the inevitable legal audit that follows. To even enter this world, you have to run a gauntlet of licensing hurdles that vary wildly from state to state. In some locales, a basic fee and a background check suffice, but that is the exception. In states like California, Texas, or Florida, the barriers are formidable. You are looking at a requirement of 6,000 hours of documented experience, which necessitates 3 full years of rigorous apprenticeship under a licensed agency. The training is less about detective intuition and more about understanding the specific statutes of civil law, privacy regulations, and the precise legal limits of surveillance, ensuring you don't breach the Fourth Amendment or local privacy statutes. The financial barrier to entry is similarly daunting. Between the state-mandated background check fees, the investigative board application costs, required liability insurance premiums, which often start at $1,500 annually, and the initial acquisition of high-end surveillance gear, a startup investigator can easily burn through $5,000 to $8,000 before they secure their first paying client. And remember, your license is not a blank check to operate with impunity. It is a strictly governed permission slip. Overstep those boundaries, even slightly, and you risk not only losing your license, but facing criminal stalking or harassment charges. The legal tightrope is the most dangerous part of the profession. Let's analyze the economics of surveillance. You will see marketing copy for agencies promising $100 an hour, which sounds like a dream for an independent contractor, but that is gross revenue, not your take-home pay. You must subtract the $4.50 per gallon fuel costs, the massive vehicle wear and tear, often leading to transmission failures from excessive idling, the sophisticated night vision camera gear that runs $4,000 a pop, and the non-billable time spent scouting locations. After expenses, many independent surveillance contractors are lucky to net $35 an hour. That is the true hourly reality of chasing secrets in a sedan. The job demands an extraordinary level of patience that is rarely depicted on screen. You are often parked in a residential neighborhood for 8 to 12 hours at a time, waiting for a single subject to step out of their house. It is not glamorous. It is physiological warfare. You are dealing with cramped legs, a lack of restrooms, and the constant gnawing fear of being identified by observant neighbors. You are essentially a ghost in a vehicle, attempting to remain invisible while the world happens all around you. If the subject stays inside, you have gained nothing. If they leave through a back exit, you get zero intel. Boredom is your true enemy. While physical surveillance is the expectation, the actual hidden world of the job lies in open source intelligence, or OSINT. This is the art of mining digital archives, property records, social media metadata, court filings, and forgotten corporate registries. It is a puzzle of thousands of tiny, seemingly unrelated dots. An investigator worth their salt can pull together a complete profile on a person just by connecting the digital breadcrumbs left behind on publicly accessible servers. It is less about trench coats and shadows, and more about high-level spreadsheet mastery and Boolean search operators. The legal limits on this work are severe and absolute. You cannot tap phones, as that violates federal wiretapping statutes. You cannot trespass on private property to install covert cameras without a warrant or specific client authorization that remains legally defensible. You cannot impersonate law enforcement to gain information, which is a felony in most jurisdictions. The moment you push past these legal barriers, your evidence becomes inadmissible in court, and you become a massive liability to your client. The danger of confrontation is real, but not from shootouts. It is the risk of heated arguments that lead to litigation. Consider the reality of financial volatility. Small, independent firms often operate on a feast or famine cycle. You might land a 3-week insurance fraud contract that pays $10,000, followed by 2 months of absolutely zero incoming work. You are constantly hunting for the next referral, the next attorney who needs a background check, or the next family seeking a missing person. Managing your overhead during the lean months is what determines whether your business survives or goes bust. Statistically, most people who launch their own agency wash out within the first 24 months, unable to handle the intense cash flow crunch and the erratic nature of the industry's demand. The mental strain is a quiet killer. You are constantly immersing yourself in the worst moments of other people's lives. You see the infidelity, the bankruptcy, the addiction, and the betrayal. It takes a specific type of emotional detachment to dig through those secrets all day and then go home to your own family. The cynicism can accumulate like heavy dust. Many investigators eventually leave the field because they simply get tired of the negative headspace. You start to see every person you meet not as a human being, but as a collection of potential secrets and lies, a pattern of habits waiting to be analyzed and decoded. We are witnessing a massive shift in the industry as a whole. The era of the shoe leather gumshoe is largely over. Digital forensics is now the primary tool. If you cannot extract data from a mobile device using proprietary software or trace a digital fingerprint across the dark web, you are obsolete. Even the traditional skip trace, finding someone who has moved or disappeared, is now done through high-cost proprietary databases like TLOXP or DelvePoint that can cost thousands of dollars to access annually. The barrier to entry has moved from physical fitness and grit to technical literacy and the ability to afford expensive subscription tiers. When you weigh the real risks against the screen time depictions, the comparison is laughable. You are not dodging bullets in a high-stakes chase. You are risking a fender bender, a disgruntled client who refuses to pay, or a slow decline into chronic back pain from sitting in a sedan for 14 hours straight. It is an industry built on the reality of human inconsistency. It is a job for people who are obsessed with detail, who enjoy the slow burn of research, and who have the patience to watch the world go by until someone makes a mistake. Read that again. It is research, it is diligence, it is not drama. Furthermore, the client expectations are often completely untethered from reality. Clients often call expecting the truth as if it is a simple binary, guilty or innocent. They do not realize that the information you uncover is often ambiguous. You find the evidence, but it doesn't always provide the closure they seek. Navigating client emotions, from the grief of a parent looking for a runaway child to the rage of a spouse suspecting infidelity, requires as much soft skill training as the hard skill surveillance work. You have to be a psychologist, an accountant, and an investigator all at once, managing the volatility of human misery on a daily basis. The physical toll is also worth addressing. The irregular hours. Surveillance frequently occurs at 3 o'clock a.m. Disrupt your circadian rhythm. You are constantly fighting fatigue, which impacts your reaction time. When you are tracking a subject, one moment of falling asleep or missing a turn can ruin 3 weeks of effort. You develop long-term health issues linked to sedentary lifestyle, stress-induced hypertension, and poor diet. The job is an endurance test. You are sacrificing your health and your personal routine for the sake of gathering, packaging, and delivering objective evidence to a third party who will never know the personal sacrifice required. Let's talk about the necessity of report writing. This is the bedrock of the PI trade. If your report is not perfect, it can be thrown out of court during cross-examination. A defense attorney will jump on any discrepancy in your timestamps, any inconsistency in your description of events, or any missing detail in your narrative. You must be precise. Every observation must be documented as if it were to be scrutinized by a jury of 12 people. You are not just observing, you are creating a historical record that must withstand the pressure of a legal firestorm. This is the true work of an investigator. Networking is another hidden pillar of success. Most private investigators don't work alone in a vacuum. They rely on a web of informants, process servers, attorneys, and other investigators. If you don't build a reputation for reliability, accuracy, and absolute discretion, you will never get the quality referrals that allow you to charge a premium. One slip-up, one case of leaky information, and your reputation in the local legal community is dead. You're a service professional in the strictest sense, and your only currency is the absolute trust of the attorneys who hire you to handle their most sensitive tasks. The nature of the cold case is also misunderstood. These are rarely the cinematic mysteries that span decades. They are usually insurance claims for slip and fall injuries, where the subject is miraculously recovered when they think no one is watching. You are looking for the smoking gun, evidence of the subject lifting a heavy box or jogging when they claim to be incapacitated. It is not about saving the world or finding a secret treasure. It is about proving a fraud that costs insurance companies millions. It is utilitarian, essential work that keeps the insurance ecosystem functioning, even if it lacks grandeur. Security and counter-surveillance are also constant concerns. Because you are often working in hostile environments, you must assume that you are being monitored as well. Using multiple vehicles, changing your appearance, and using encrypted communication methods are all part of the standard operating procedure for seasoned professionals. You never want to be the one being investigated. This layer of paranoia is the price of doing business, ensuring that your clients' secrets remain secure and that your own footprint remains as small as possible in an increasingly connected world. You are a professional in the shadows, constantly watching the watcher. So here is the final, honest verdict. If you are attracted to the idea of being a hero, you will fail. The heroes are few and far between. But if you have an analytical mind, if you enjoy the quiet hunt for information, and if you are comfortable with long stretches of intense, isolated labor, there is a career here. It is not about gunfights. It is about the ability to turn chaos into a coherent narrative. You are the person who finds the missing piece, but you find it behind a desk, buried in a database, after days of waiting for absolutely nothing to happen, just to find one critical truth. You must also consider the evolving nature of privacy. As facial recognition technology and high-resolution drone photography become more accessible, the ethics of the job become significantly murkier. The PI of the future will have to grapple with the morality of these technologies. Will you be the one pushing the boundaries of what is acceptable, or will you be the one defining the ethical standards for the next generation of digital investigators? The job is changing, and those who thrive will be the ones who can balance the power of these new tools with the constraints of the law and human decency. Ultimately, the private investigation industry is a mirror of society itself. We are a people obsessed with secrets, with verifying reality, and with finding the truth underneath the facade. As long as there is deceit, there will be a demand for those who can cut through the noise. It is a grueling, often thankless profession, but for the right individual, it offers a rare glimpse into the machinery of human life that most people never see. It is not for everyone, but for those who can stomach the grind, it is a way to make sense of a world that is becoming more complex by the hour.